They're here.
The Tommy Boyds Show. This must be where pies go when they die.
You're the most cold-blooded man I've ever seen.
How can you have any meat if you don't eat your pudding?
The Tommy Boyds Show.
To the left. Yeah.
A show with more endurance than radiation itself.
You say either, and I say either.
Apparently official.
Stand by, please.
Tommy Boyds.
Apparently official.
Have you no compassion?
Stand by, please.
Let's rehang the pictures.
In the gallery of life.
There's no escaping here.
Tommy Boyds.
Morning. I'll ask the question, how are you today? I'm 1 degree under, and I gather there's a lot of it about, so I'm going to pace myself with your forgiveness. But I'm here. And on yesterday's programme, there was a chap who excused the fact that the lighting in his house when he was a boy was all to pot by explaining that, after all, he was brought up in Manchester. If you heard that call. And it got us thinking, you know. It's a funny old excuse for almost everything, isn't it? Manchester. Well, then again, no, it's not. Because if ever there was a city in Western Europe that tried to punch way above its weight, it's dear old Manchester. We've never told it to its face, but I really think it ought to sit down and join the queue in its proper place. Because all this business about bidding for the Olympics and the World Cup and the Commonwealth Games really has the rest of Great Britain smirking behind its hand. Free call 0500 1053 89. And you notice that they give it not to Manchester, but they give it to Bangkok and Borneo and things rather than Manchester. And I do wonder what the Olympic Committee think when Manchester keep pitching up and pointing to a very nice bald man called Bobby Charlton, who always fronts the thing, and they go, oh, well, at least we get to talk to Bobby Charlton about whether it was a goal or not in 1966. I've met him and I've talked to him, and he's told me that the Olympic Committee only ever ask him whether he thinks it was a goal or not, right? Which is about how seriously they must take the Manchester bid. But it's not just the business of believing that it could be an Olympic city that lets Manchester down. It's the simple fact that it is, isn't it, basking in the reflected glory of Coronation Street, which I honestly think plenty of Mancunians believe is some kind of a homage to them and their wonderful urban camaraderie, their team spirit, their natural values, their down-to-earth-edness. But I think they think it's real, which of course it isn't if you've been to Manchester. You've been to Moss Side? Heard of yeah, we'll talk about that in just a second. Manchester, though, for goodness sake, can we not ask Manchester to find its proper place and accept just where it is in the pecking order of British cities? And like it or not, you've got to start with London, that's a fact. You know, you will argue with that. You start with Paris in France, so ditto, you'll start... There's a fight in America. I mean, American cities, is it New York, is it Washington, or is it Los Angeles? But I think in England and in most European countries, maybe Spain where they fight over Madrid and Barcelona, most European countries, you start, there's no argument about top city. The place that people think of, foreigners, whenever they're asked to think of Britain, think of London. Right, then you've got to go Glasgow, Edinburgh, say, for the politics of the thing, and then you've got to come to Birmingham, which is the 11th biggest city in Europe. Did you know that? But you don't get Birmingham going on and on, do you? Not really. It's one great thing about the brummies. They're very they're a grand lot, the brummies. They know their place. But Manchester, I don't know. Free call 0500 1053 89. All of the great cities in the world are on an expanse of water. Look at Newcastle. Glasgow's down at the end of the Clyde, one of the most majestic rivers on earth. And you've got Bristol. And you've got Liverpool. What's Manchester's down at the end of a canal? Think it through. Free call 0500 1053 89. At least Liverpool's got a sense of humour. You arrive at Liverpool station, you get in a taxi cab, and you're laughing before the meter's begun to tick over. They have got a wit, and they have got a sense of humour, and they have got a sense of humility. But Manchester, it's such a struggle for them, isn't it? Because it's either Coronation Street or the Busby Babes. The Busby Babes. And we're back to Bobby Charlton and that great side. And that was a good side, all right. That had George Best, an Irishman. Bobby Charlton, who was from the northeast. I can't think of anybody who was ever born in Manchester who could kick with one foot, never mind about two. Think that through. They're all imports. They puff and huff about their teams, don't they? But, you know, all their best players in the last 10 years have been from elsewhere. You know, Beckham's a Londoner, and Cantona, well, and Roy Keane's from across the water, and they've got this Jap Stam, who's not Mancunian, is he? You see, and Ryan Giggs, who's as Welsh as they come, not Mancunian. He actually could have been a Mancunian, but his parents persuaded him not to be a Mancunian, but to claim that he was Welsh. Free call 0500 10 53 89. And then there is Moss Side. And I think you can, just as you can judge a family in many ways by its greatest miscreant, yeah, you can also judge a conurbation by its greatest shame. And I think Moss Side, we could safely say, is just about the worst housing estate in Europe. If you want to disagree, then you've got to nominate somewhere else. Free call 0500 10 53 89. And I bet you in 3 years' time, in spite of all of this, they'll still be bidding for the Olympics. Free call 0500 10 53 89. I'm Tommy Boyd, this is Talk Radio. There's a good argument for listening.
Life's gonna suck when you grow up, when you grow up, when you grow up. Life's gonna suck when you grow up, and then you're gonna die.
Tommy Boyd.
And it wouldn't be there if it wasn't for the slave trade. Danny calls from Manchester. Good afternoon, Danny.
Yeah, where are you from, Tommy?
All over.
Where?
All over.
Yeah, but where exactly are you from?
I'm not from anywhere exactly.
Well, where were you born?
I was born in a place called Syon Park.
Where?
In a place called Syon Park.
Where's that, though?
Well, it's in Syon Park. What's the big deal about where I'm born? What has that got to do with anything, where someone's born?
Oh, what are you slagging Manchester for, then?
Well, because Manchester is a bit jumped up.
Well, it's not the greatest place in the world, you know what I
Oh,
mean?
it isn't, is it? But you wouldn't think that.
Yeah, but, I mean, what...
If you listen to the average Mancunian. You know, I'm just saying.
Why have you been listening to?
Oh, Mancunians. It's my job to listen. I'm a listener. I'm a professional listener. That's 9 parts of communication, is good listening.
Yeah, well, you're going on about them bids before, you know, for the Olympic Games and all, whether it was.
I know.
But we beat Birmingham and we beat London. So,
We?
you know,
We? What do you mean we?
the Manchester bid was a better bid, obviously.
Oh, you're a Mancunian.
Yeah, I'm Mancunian, yeah.
You're a
It's just-
Mancunian and proud of it.
Yeah, I'm proud of it, yeah.
Why?
Why?
Yeah.
Well, why shouldn't I be?
No, that's not a good answer to the question, is it? What's it got to do with you, whether Manchester's up or down, in or out?
Yeah, but the thing is I ain't got a problem with that, but when you're slagging Manchester off,
No, I'm not.
you were slagging off.
I'm only being accurate. I'm precise.
No, you're not at all. You
I
don't know
am
what you're
being
talking about,
precise.
mate.
I am
You have no
precise.
idea what you're on about.
Well, what about the football side of things, then?
It's the biggest club in the world.
Name
the
me-
biggest football club in the world.
Name me one footballer born and bred in Manchester.
Born and bred in Manchester.
Yeah, like you, for example.
Nicky Butt.
No, he's not.
Where's he from,
He's a
mate?
Bolton boy.
Nicky Butt ain't from Bolton.
He's a Bolton boy.
No, he's not.
He's
at
a
all.
Bolton boy.
No, he's not.
Do you want to bet?
Yeah, how much want to bet?
Let's say a fiver, shall we? The charity.
Yeah.
All right. And name me another one.
Another born and bred.
They're all foreigners,
Wes Brown.
mate. They're all foreigners.
Wes Brown.
Never heard of him.
Never heard of Wes Brown?
Never heard of Wes Brown.
You know what I'm talking about now.
What about all the legends? Dennis Law. Bobby Charlton.
Yeah, but you can chat about everything,
Pat
can't you?
Crerand. No, you can't. George Best.
Well, who do you support then?
Brazil. Get out of that one. Yeah.
Come on, Tommy, you're out of order there.
No, I'm not out of order there. Manchester claims that one of its great achievements is football, but they're not producing any footballers.
Yeah, but where is Manchester United?
No, that isn't the point. The point is they're not producing any
That's
footballers.
all that
They just
matters.
buy them in from somewhere else.
Yeah, but all teams like that. Look at Liverpool, look at Arsenal, look at Arsenal, look at Chelsea.
No. Well, yeah, fine. Look at Chelsea.
I mean, they're all foreigners, aren't they?
Yeah. But they don't claim... They don't make football. They're only claim to fame. Or maybe you've never been to Chelsea.
Well, Manchester's isn't.
It is.
It's not the first, world's ever first
The what?
computer
What?
was from Manchester.
What? You've been to that little jumped-up museum down by the canal? You haven't you?
But is it the world's first museum or not?
No.
It's not.
No. No!
It is.
It isn't.
Why ain't it?
But why isn't it the world's first museum?
Look at Piccadilly Radio, you know what I mean?
Look at Piccadilly Radio. Come on, Manchester, you can do better than this. At the moment, it's 2-0 and we're nowhere near half-time. Alan calls from Newport. You're on Talk Radio. Alan.
Oh, Tommy, you got it wrong again.
Piccadilly
I strongly disagree
Radio.
with you.
What?
I strongly disagree with you. You got it wrong again.
What have I got wrong?
Well, you, for a start, I mean to say Manchester's very famous, isn't it? Also, I can't see why the Olympic Games can't go there.
The Olympic Games doesn't go to places like Manchester.
Well, they should do.
Well, it doesn't. It goes to gigantic places like Seoul and Barcelona. Have you been to Barcelona?
No.
Have you been to Manchester?
Yes, I've been to Manchester. I like the place.
Well, I've been to Barcelona and Manchester, and there's a bit of daylight between the two.
Yeah, but the trouble is, in Barcelona, it gets too hot during the daytime, really. It's far too hot in those countries. And in the temperate zones for our athletes, it'd be too much for them, wouldn't
I grant you that if you're looking for cool weather, Manchester United has a stronger bid than some.
Well, I grant you.
I grant you.
Yeah, no, because of the Pennines, it's going to rain there. It's supposed to be the wettest place in the
Do you think that's what Sir Bobby points out then, to whole Hablage and all that lot?
No,
when they're after the World Cup and the Olympics, you know, it rains a lot. They're not reduced to that argument, are they?
No. Well, I mean, so the reason they're going there is because of the beautiful surroundings, around the nearby sort of Pennines and getting towards the Lake District. And obviously, I grant it's very built up around the Greater Manchester area, and you've got lots of big suburbs and estates and things like that. But I mean, say there are some worse places in the world. I mean, say if you were to focus it, say, where the Open University of Milton Keynes is, you'd never find anything in a month of Sundays because there's no streets named there. They just got numbers.
Thanks for your call. It's a good game, but and so we will play it. Can you think of any great Mancunians? Politically, scientifically, the arts. I believe David Hockney. Yes. Who? Yes. He was born up the road from Manchester. He lives in Los Angeles, I think, now, but he would not want to be known as a Mancunian. And if anybody is born and bred in Manchester and makes it, the first thing they do is move to St John's Wood. A free call, 0500 10 53 89. This is not a down on Manchester. I've had some great nights out in Manchester. Mind you, then I had to try and get a cab home, which is another story. I just feel that the rest of the country would consider it a service if we were to put the record straight on Manchester. The number is free call 0500 10 53 89. I'm Tommy Boyd. This is Talk Radio.
Talk Radio is your station for nationwide football. In association with
The Tommy Boyd Show.
Ho, ho, ho.
If you've just joined us, good afternoon. We're wondering what it is about Manchester that makes it think it's fit to host the Olympics and the World Cup and the Commonwealth Games and the rest of it. A little bit of an embarrassment, isn't it, to the rest of us? Because there's Newcastle, surely, Birmingham, Liverpool, surely Glasgow should be ahead of Manchester in the queue, really. But Manchester's got what? Coronation Street and Bobby Charlton and so much self-belief. Patrick calls from Dorset. Patrick, you're on Talk Radio. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Tell me something. Are you a southerner?
No.
You're not?
No.
You must be a southerner. No, slagging Manchester off, though.
Why is that, then?
Well, it's got a lot going for it now, hasn't it? A hell of a lot going for it. I remember the days of the trams and that. And now, what have we got now? We've got Manchester United. We've got a nice sports pavilions. We've got the G-Mex. We've got everything going for Manchester. So why can't they hold the games there? And what gives you the right to slag Manchester off?
The fact that people from Manchester are always puffing out their chest about Manchester, and quite frankly, I wonder whether the place merits it.
It does.
Well, does it compare to other places? I mean, where are you from?
I'm from Dorset.
Yeah.
But I'm a Mancunian through and through.
Sound it, yeah. Why did you leave then?
Why did I leave? Because of my job.
And when are you going back?
I'll be going back there in about 6 months' time.
Right.
Because I'll be getting a transfer up there, because I can't stand the Southerners.
No.
And I'd sooner be in Manchester.
What can't you stand
than
about
anywhere.
the Southerners then?
Pardon?
What can't you stand about the Southerners, then?
They're not as friendly.
Oh, like as you?
Yeah, just like me.
It's slagging off the Southerners?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Southerners are too stuck up.
Whereabouts in Dorset are you?
Whereabouts in Dorset? In Beer?
Well, they're not stuck up round there, man.
Of course they are.
If they
They're
don't
all-
want to...
they're all stuck up.
If they don't want to talk to you round there, all right?
Yeah.
Because you're not making the effort to fit in.
Oh, I'm making the effort to fit in, but they're not as friendly. You go in the pubs down here, and if you don't talk the lingo and that, they don't want to know you. I mean, you go in a pub up north and that, and everyone greets you and shakes your hand, and they all want to know you.
Oh, go on, you made that up. That's absolute fiction, that is.
It isn't fiction.
It is fiction. It's not like that. It never was like that. It never will be like that, and Mancunians don't want it to be like that.
I can go up north.
You go to a pub in Manchester on a Friday evening and you talk with a Scouse accent, and you'll get more than a handshake.
Yeah,
You'll
well...
get shown the floor.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Well?
Yeah.
Why shouldn't they?
Well, now you're on the move, now, your argument, now. I mean, you're friendly or you stick up for yourself when a Scouser comes into town. You can't have it both ways.
Of course we can. We're Mancunians, and Mancunians stick together.
No, Mancunians make it up as they go along. Free call 0500 10 53 89. Look, Patrick, are you still there?
Yep.
Well, Stuart wants a word with you.
Right.
He's actually calling from Manchester.
Yep.
So, you know, I expect the pair of you are going to bond. Stuart, you're on Talk Radio. Good afternoon.
Hi, Tommy. All right.
I've got Patrick here.
Patrick, let me put you right on a few things.
Go on, then.
Okay, I live a quarter of a mile away from the proposed Commonwealth site.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what we've done to make our Olympic Boulevard. We put up a nice little black fence to hide the hanging council housing estate.
Yeah.
Okay. And we acid washed a couple of bridges, and we put a few grass sods down.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's our whole contribution. That was the same for the Olympic bid. No stadium or plans, a little model in the town hall. Okay, you're surrounded by 4 of the roughest areas in Manchester. Beswick, Collyhurst, Ancoats, Harper Hay, Clayton, Droylsden. And I live there, mate, so I know the script. I know what's going on. And I've been to Barcelona. I've got a photograph on my fridge of me inside the Olympic Stadium. And I looked up the Air Olympic Way and thought of what we would do in Manchester. It just ain't happening, mate. We're just not big enough.
So you're pulling the Mancunians down?
I'm not. Listen, I'm Mancunian through and through, mate. 33 years of Mancunian.
So why aren't you sticking
what I'm saying is... It's not in the right areas. Have you ever been to an Olympic village before?
No.
Well, I have, and let me tell you now, we're a long way off the mark, and I would love us to host the Olympics, I really would. We have got some good stadia, but it's just not going to happen. It's just not the right place. If you talk of Rome, Munich, Montreal, Manchester, it's not happening. It doesn't fit. We're not big enough yet. Maybe in about 10, 15 years, maybe.
Yeah, but Manchester...
Sorry, go on.
Manchester City are moving shortly, aren't they?
Well, that's going to bring the area down to entirely. But then again, that's another point. But no, we're just not big enough for it yet. It's a token effort. It's just going to blow up in our faces.
Stuart, I'm really grateful for your call. You got it now, Patrick?
Yeah, go on then.
That's set you a bit straight, hasn't it?
Yeah.
That's good to hear. You've sorted your argument out a bit now, haven't you?
Yeah, go on then.
Right, now
I haven't been up there for 5 years, you see. So
5 years you've been left the place, and you're lecturing us. I think what you need to do, right, is swallow your pride a little bit.
Yeah.
And go around telling a few people in Dorset what a wonderful place they've got.
Right.
And then they might talk to you. That's trouble when northerners can't go south, you know. They do like to tell everybody that they've got a bigger one and a better one, and that people in the south don't know they're born. That's why nobody's talking to Patrick in Dorset, isn't it? Free call 0500 10 53 89. Let's have a word with Anne, who calls from Hertford.
Oh, Tommy, I do love your programme. But Yorkshire is the capital of England. It doesn't matter what place, it really is. I've been living down south, if you like, for 25 odd years. But Yorkshire is the place, and Manchester, I'm sorry, doesn't stand a chance.
Typical Yorkshire person, really. Free call 0500 10 53 89. That's why you won't have any foreign players in your cricket team, isn't it? Well,
we don't need them. We don't need them.
We don't need them because we're quite happy to come in the bottom half of the county championship every year. That's right, isn't it? Because winning is much much less important than being Yorkshire born and bred?
Oh, no, no. You need some Yorkshire cooking in you.
Free call 0500 105389. Let's have a word with Alex, who calls from Bromley. Hello, Alex.
Hello, how you
Alex,
doing, Tommy?
All right, you?
Can I just tell you something?
Yeah.
You've absolutely made my day.
Okay.
I've been at college, well, I was at college in Liverpool for about 4 years, and I'll tell you what, I had this argument for 4 years. You get people from Manchester, apart from the guy who just rang up, he wasn't a bad guy, but they've got this complex about Southerners. People from London.
Yeah.
You're from London, and they're on the back foot. They're like, you know, where are you from and stuff? And you're like, okay, calm down. And it's not delusions of grandeur, it's delusions of adequacy. They are so far behind some of the major European cities, but they're convinced because their football team has done well. Finally, you know, Baresta's success for 30 years, it's finally done well for the last 6-7 years. They think they should take over the world.
But this is a very important point. This is not their football team.
I know, it's
a football team that happens to be based just outside Manchester.
I know.
Old Trafford.
Absolutely.
Okay. So for an entire city of, 1.75 million people, it's not very big.
Oh, it's about 3, actually, in truth. Greater Manchester, if you include the Wolves a little bit.
Well,
listen, I'm not sticking up for them. I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt.
But then, you know, Greater Yarmouth is probably about 750,000 if you want to go Greater. Manchester.
Okay, all right, Manchester,
You know.
okay. All right, hardcore Manchester. It's not that big. I mean, it's big-ish compared to a lot of other cities, but it's not quite London.
No. Because if Greater Manchester is Manchester, then Manchester's got 3 teams.
Well, exactly.
It's got Stockport.
And it's got Bolton, and it's got Oldham.
Well, then Nicky Butt is a Mancunian.
And then you've got Birmingham, and then you've got...
exactly.
You've got Devon.
Yeah, no, Manchester's Manchester, and there's a football team that happen to play there, but they could play anywhere else. There are more supporters, apparently, per head in Basingstoke of Manchester United.
Oh, of course there are.
Than there are in Manchester.
Oh, absolutely. Well, up in Liverpool, which is a completely different kettle of fish, the people there, you raised a point about how if a Scouser went into Manchester, he'd be sliced to death or something, or whatever. There are a lot of students from Manchester in Liverpool that actually wear their Mancunian shirts, and the Scouts has been the good-natured people that they are. Don't touch them. You get the odd jibe, but they're fine. But when you go into Manchester, and I support Liverpool, it's a death threat, and it always rains in Manchester. Why? There's a permanent cloud there.
I know why it rains in Manchester.
It's God telling us something.
The people haven't got a sense of humour, like Liverpudlians and like good old Cockneys.
Oh, yeah, Cockneys or Glaswegians. You talk about Glasgow or
Great sense
Edinburgh.
of humour. Geordies.
Yeah, Geordies.
They laugh at themselves, they laugh at other people.
Exactly.
But Mancunians take themselves so seriously.
They've got a complex about the South. They can't tolerate the fact that it's sunnier, warmer, the better job prospects, and the people aren't quite as bad as what they're made out to be.
No.
They should get on with the business.
Their greatest contribution to the world of culture, an artist who I have the honour to have actually written material for, is Bernard Manning. Now, Bernard Manning only makes fun of people who are not from Manchester. That's the only type of person you cannot write material for Bernard Manning ridiculing. Mancunians. But you give him a joke about a Scouser.
Oh, yeah. All day.
Or a Yorkie.
Oh, yeah.
Or Scot.
Of course.
And worse.
They can't laugh about themselves. They crack the jokes. They can tell you what to do, how to do it. But as soon as someone criticises them and says, well, I don't think, you're quite in the Sydney/Barcelona category when it comes to hosting the Olympics. I mean, I laughed about that for about a year non-stop.
It's embarrassing, isn't it?
It's beyond embarrassment. You actually, you can't really comprehend it.
And the worst of it is that all these Olympic officials who get to choose where the Olympics are going to be held, right? They go to places like Montreal, Atlanta, Seoul, Hong Kong, Paris.
Warm, beautiful, aesthetic, spectacular.
With the cuisine and the hotel, and they go to Manchester.
I know.
And Bobby Charlton has to show them round. Every 2 years, Bobby Charlton's showing either the Olympic Committee or the World Cup Committee round. Poor lad, bless him.
And they talk, that's it, 2 points you pointed out, but couldn't stop me talking to my friends earlier. Bobby Charlton's a prat. I wish he could just shut up, go away, teach boys to play soccer in Manchester and just leave the world alone. I don't want to hear his voice on Sky TV, radio, anything. I'm fed up with him. Go away. And the fact about Northerners being more friendly than the Southerners is actually a myth. In Liverpool, Glasgow, certain cities they are, but generally speaking, they're wary of you because they don't recognise you.
And this thing about Southerners not being friendly, I would say that 80% of pubs and bars and clubs that you go in now in London I mean, they're pickup joints.
Oh, of course they are.
You're usually talking to somebody and leaving with somebody before you get to the bar.
Well, absolutely,
All right.
Tommy. That's obviously through experience, hey?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean. Alex, it's been delightful talking to you. Thank you
You've
for
made my
your
day.
contribution to the programme. There is a lack of humour. So many places in Britain are famous for their humour, but not Manchester. And I think humour is that important. I don't want to go back over old wounds, but I honestly think that the fundamental difference between Hitler and Churchill, because in many ways Churchill was a terrible man. If you were told that there were two dichotomies, one of which you had to support and the other one you had to fight, and you heard that one was headed up by a drunken, chain-smoking, misogynist, meat-eating, cantankerous old beggar, and the other one was headed up by a teetotal, non-smoking, vegetarian, working-class made-good chap, you wouldn't think twice until you found out that the old beggar had a fantastic sense of humour and the vegetarian never cracked a smile in his life. So important, the sense of humour. And it was lack of sense of humour that led to the Second World War. I don't know. I was in there, so I mentioned it. Elspeth calls from Worcestershire. Good afternoon, Elspeth.
Manchester is the cultural centre of that area. Music, dance, modern dance, and schools of music, colleges of music. But first and foremost, the ambassadors of the whole world are the Manchester Boys Choir. They were known everywhere. They beat the Viennese Boys Choir into a cocked hat. They are renowned now. They're the top. They're totally different from any choir you could ever meet.
Well, if you know your boys' choirs, I dare say...
These are not church choirs.
No.
They're not ordinary choirs.
Oh.
They're nothing like any choirs you've ever met.
I stand corrected.
They are from all the state schools.
All right, then if you know your non-church choirs...
They're individuals.
Yes.
Church school, from state schools, backed by their parents.
I was hoping nobody was going to bring this up, because I knew I'd be on shaky ground if the question of non-church choirs was raised.
I'm just saying they're
I'm going to have to give you this one.
I'm not saying they're non-church.
And slink away.
I haven't said anything about that they don't go to church or believe.
And lick my wounds, because you've got me on
This is to do
pole
with
here.
ordinary school children.
Yes.
And they literally give their best and more than their best.
More than their best.
You've got to take talk radio up there.
Yeah.
Or bring them on to talk radio.
Or something like that.
They're brilliant. They started off in the early 80s with age sort of 10 to 13. Eventually...
I'll get back to you for their history.
Yeah, but it is absolutely magnificent.
It is.
You'll be standing and cheering them at the end.
Oh. And you also made a very good point. And I think it's probably one which stands alone, Elspeth. Manchester is indeed the cultural centre of the Manchester area. I was floundering there with Elspeth. She'd obviously thought her case out. John calls from London. John, you're on Talk Radio. Good afternoon.
Hello. Good afternoon, Tommy. The Bee Gees, Tommy, they were born in Manchester.
No, they weren't.
They was.
No.
They was.
They weren't.
They was.
They weren't.
They was.
They weren't. They're Australian.
I know them personally.
So do I.
They went to Australia to get the warm weather.
Well, obviously, you would, wouldn't you? Everybody leaves Manchester as soon as they...
from Manchester. Born and bred in Manchester.
They're not a Manchester achievement, my love. They're an Australian achievement.
They're a world achievement. They're a world achievement. They achieved it all over the world.
But they did. You can't put...
Born in Manchester. Born in Manchester.
But their genius, which I am told they have, although I'm not sure how you quantify it, their genius did not derive from the accident of their birthplace, but from the fueling of the wonderful Australian way of life, my love. You can see that.
They started harmonising and singing when I was at school at 5 or 6 years old.
Yeah, but they weren't singing like that, were they?
Second best group in the world after the Beatles.
No, the Queen are.
Born in Manchester.
No, Queen are.
They're born in Manchester.
Queen are the second best group in the world.
No, I'm
That's
talking about
official.
male groups.
Well, Queen are a male group.
No, they're
What?
all gay.
They're not all gay.
Yeah, they are.
You're a very ignorant man. Are you a Mancunian?
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
London cab driver, Mancunian, born in the East End.
Yeah, is that right?
Yeah.
Very confused. We shan't be asking you the
Portsmouth
quickest...
have got Chinese footballers.
We shan't be asking you...
That Manchester football team, Portsmouth have got Chinese men playing for them. Useless.
Who?
Portsmouth, your football team.
Which Chinese men?
You've got Chinese players.
Which one?
Hung Low, Ufang Low. wherever the homes are. They played for Portsmouth.
Yeah.
And you can't be born in Sion Park.
Have you been...
born near it.
Can I ask you a question? Have you been using a mobile phone a lot?
No, first time today. I bought one this morning and used it this afternoon.
Well, it's worked its wonders quickly with you, dear boy. Free call 0500 10 53 89. Not wanting to start any arguments, really. Just wanting to suggest that Manchester recognises its place in the world. It's important for a person to recognise its place, his place in the world, and ditto a city to recognise its place within its country and within the world. Now, I just think it's a tiny little bit, since the rest of the world has heard of London and Liverpool in that order. London because of London, Liverpool largely because of the Beatles, and because Liverpool Football Club and their achievements in Europe over the last 20 or 25 years are far and away the flagship of British football post-war, if not all time. The rest of the world has heard of London and of Liverpool. London, Liverpool. So why it is that Manchester feels it's got to go on bidding for the World Cup and the Commonwealth Games and the Olympic Games, just feel we ought to point it out to Manchester quietly. And there's no reason why Manchester, being northerners and realistic people, can't just take it on the chin. It's free call 0500 10 53 89. I'm Tommy Boyd.
Here's...
I love you. That man cares for you.
Tommy Boyd Show.
Get real with the people on the dance floor.
Talk radio.
Free call 0500 10 53
89. We're just talking about Manchester's place in the British firmament. And I think it's worth reminding you that as far as NATO believe, when the Soviet Union was pointing intercontinental ballistic missiles our way, and there were some 40 of them, they believe, aimed at the British Isles, okay? Clusters of them were aimed at military targets in the south and at London itself. They were also aimed at Glasgow, mainly because of the location of Holy Loch. They were also aimed at Liverpool and some of the other western ports in the British Isles. They were also aimed at Hull, and they were aimed at Newcastle and Birmingham for its manufacturing base. But as far as we know, even the Soviet Union didn't bother to point a conventional missile at Manchester. And, you know, the funny thing is, that will rile some Mancunians to believe that the Russians didn't think they were important enough to nuke them. It's a funny thing, isn't it? Pride in your birthplace. Simon calls from Oldham. You're on Talk Radio. Hello, Simon.
Hello, Tommy. You've got it totally, absolutely wrong. Manchester's the centre of the universe. Do you remember earlier when you said about naming one person that comes from Manchester?
It would be a start, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I'll start. For one, Judith Chalmers is a Mancunian.
I at least said that up.
Oasis.
Well, they're in St John's Wood now, aren't they?
Oasis, M People, take that. Do I need to go on? So many people. It's the cultural centre of the world, Manchester.
There was
Sorry.
I was going to say, there was this idea that some sort of music scene had started up in Manchester towards the end of the 80s, but that's when I was there towards the end of the 80s, and I couldn't see much going on. All we do know is that anybody who starts out in Manchester, who doesn't do too badly, quickly heads for somewhere else to live.
The fact is, Manchester produced them people. Manchester's the centre of the cultural and musical world.
Well, why do they get out then?
Just to broaden their horizons, move on, do other things, but they're still Mancunians at heart. And Tommy, what about the Industrial Revolution?
Yeah, what about
Born
it?
in Manchester, Manchester's the centre of the industrial world. We're proud of that.
And so you should be proud to have piggybacked the slave trade, which is what gave the Lancashire cotton mills their cheap raw materials. Proud to have exploited
the industrial world in Manchester.
Exploited working men and impoverished women.
The birth of the industry. You'd be penniless without Manchester. We'd still be living in the dark ages if it wasn't for Manchester.
Rickety
Manchester develops things.
10-year-old boys and girls The cotton mills of Manchester? Yes.
Absolutely not.
Absolutely so.
Absolutely not. And look at the people now. We're so positive thinking and forward looking that we believe in ourselves that we can get the Olympics, and we will do eventually.
Wasn't Eddie the Eagle from Manchester?
I have no idea.
Don't you think there's something synchronous about him and his aspirations and the reality of his aspirations and Manchester's bid for the Olympics?
No, let's look at Judith Chalmers, globetrotter.
Yes.
She's a woman of the world, and that's what Mancunians are like. We want to travel the world, conquer the world, spread Mancunianism throughout the world.
Why is she so
of the world.
Why is she so orange?
Because it's always sunny in Manchester when she comes home.
Nice to talk to you, Simon.
Bye-bye.
Simon in Oldham. Jamie's in Manchester. You're on Talk Radio. Jamie?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just am agreeing with everything you're saying, Tommy.
I'm sure you also think so. You live there?
I used to live there, and I could not wait to get out.
No.
It's just the pits of the world.
Mm.
My sisters, they both moved out. As soon as I could, I moved out. And Mum and Dad, if they could move out, they'd be out. Like a shot. It's got nothing.
No.
It's a soulless city. It's got the only thing it's got is the Bridgewater Hall. And I'll bet 99% of Mancunians never even been there.
No.
Or even know what's going on there.
What it lacks, to begin with, Jamie, is water. No, I'm serious. All the great cities in all the great countries have
it used to have it, didn't it? It used to have the canal, but it abused that.
Canal doesn't count, does it?
Not really.
A canal? A canal? A ditch of still water? It's not the same as like being, on the River Seine or the Thames or the Amazon or the, what's the one in Washington? Well, that's on the sea, You do need water,
Exactly.
You do need water. Scott Chisholm has a theory that the further you are from water, okay,
Yeah.
the thicker you are.
Well, just carry on listening to me and you'll realise he's probably right.
But you've moved.
Too right.
Where are you now?
I live in Cheshire, which is just only about 20 miles out of Manchester, but...
Well, people don't realise you haven't got it's only about £1.80 in a cab from the middle of Manchester, and you're in beautiful countryside.
Hey, they should have aimed all the bombs at Manchester, wiped it off the face of the earth.
I see your point.
And I'll tell you something else.
Where would you exactly have aimed the intercontinental ballistic missile in Manchester? Where would you have had it?
Wythenshawe.
Pardon?
Wythenshawe.
Wythenshawe.
Too right.
Fair dues.
It's a dump. And all I can say is you only have to look at the Gallagher brothers to realise the intelligence of the average Mancunian.
And indeed the intelligence of the average caller who suggests that that's some sort of a credential of Manchester, the Gallagher brothers.
Exactly. Where's the brain in that?
And Manchester University will claim that it gave the world the young ones and Rick Mail and all that lot.
Good, it can have them.
Free call 0500 1053 89. It's Talk Radio.
Picture yourself at Talk Radio.
Nudge, nudge.
Who's the target?
Manchester. Simple as that. Kevin calls from Nunhead. Kevin, you're on Talk Radio.
Tom,
Kevin.
they never buy around, do they?
Who done?
The Mancunians.
I've
They walk into the pub and they all get their own drinks.
Do they do that?
They do.
Is that some kind of
my
act of
in-laws-
friendship? Yes?
Sorry?
Go on.
My in-laws never, ever, ever get up the bar first. They always wait for someone else. And then they come up and they want to give you £4 to buy a drink. They don't, they've never heard of rounds.
A reasonable point. Valerie calls from Hampshire. Thank you, Kevin.
Hello.
Valerie.
Oh, hello, Tommy. I don't live too far from you. Now then, I would like to know, from Manchurian, basically, why Manchester has got such a high Siamese twin birth rate, if not the highest in the country. 1 a year, Siamese twins are born in Manchester. Now, I read this in the paper last year, and I
I don't want to pick you up on a slip of the tongue, dear.
Yes?
It is a reasonable question to ask of Manchester, but I don't think a Manchurian will be able to answer the question.
Don't you? Oh, I would like to know...
A Mancunian, perhaps.
A manicure. Oh, is that what they cure?
Yes.
Oh, I thought that was to do with your nails. Sorry.
Mancunians? No, you're thinking of cuticles.
Oh, no. Manicure. Oh, I think... Oh.
Ah, you're thinking of a manicure?
Yes.
As opposed to Fu Manchu?
Yes,
Who was a Manchurian gang leader?
Yes.
Ah, now we're getting sorted.
I was thinking of manicure, sorry.
Easily done.
Yes. And Tommy, do explain the spaceship, whether it did take away your astro to...
Okie doke. Oh, God. Sam calls from Gainsborough. Sam, your point.
Oh, yeah, why do you pick Manchester, like, with all the other cities and everything?
Why?
Yeah.
Well, because Manchester tends to go on a bit more than the others about itself.
Yeah, right.
And that's true, isn't it?
Right, we've got Man United, haven't we? That are the best.
Well...
Yeah.
Yeah, they're pretty good.
They're the best.
They're pretty good.
They're the best.
It depends. Sometimes people come along and stuff them. That happens. On the day, sometimes they're not the best.
Yeah, but...
They're pretty good. But which of them are Manchester people? This is the thing nowadays.
I think, Butty is.
We think so.
Yeah.
If you count Bolton as being part of Manchester.
No, I don't know really.
No. Thank you for your call. Free call 0500 1053 89. In the next slice of the programme, we turn the spotlight on the vexed issue of spousal abuse. I'm Tommy Boyd. This is Talk Radio.
Keeping an eye.
Don't forget to subscribe and like. Comment too if you wish. Even slap your legs and make a purchase from Ann Summers. But don't do nothing.